All right, welcome back. Yes, as you've seen there, we've got Mr. Ebonlu Adegborowa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, here with us. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Well, you know, when they talk about the national security architecture, the National Assembly wading in at the last time, you only think about, okay, their lawmakers, well, people expect them to take the very next step. But first of all, give us your impression about all of these things making the rounds about what and how we should proceed tackling security.
Well, I think that the framers of our Constitution have long envisaged what we are going through now when they inserted in Section 14, Sub 2, that the welfare and security of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. So any government that's in power, the priority for that government is security of lives and property. And that's why you see the narrative that is going on now that insecurity is affecting economy. As said by the Vice President and even the Honorable Minister when he said that the issue of poverty is also responsible for much of what we see today. Having said that, I think what the National Assembly is looking at, it seems to be some failure of coordination on the part of those who are responsible for security. I take the case of the service chiefs, who mostly all came into power in July 2015. And by the Armed Forces Act, they had a tenure of 2 years. And that tenure was extended in 2017. Their mandatory service periods have expired. So we have people who are in office whose tenure is not specified. And so you get to a stage when it looks like you have personalized security, there's no professionalism there, and it doesn't give room for planning because, I mean, you need to get new ideas who can bring new things to the table. And then secondly, you then look at the issue of who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. You look at the issue of the police. You have the Police Service Commission, you have the National Security Council, you have the Police Council, you have the Armed Forces Council, you have the Army Council, you have the Navy Council. So you see that the person who is supposed to be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, somebody who is probably active, somebody who is energetic, because he has to read loads and loads of reports. You read reports coming from National Defense Intelligence, DSS, reports coming from DIA. So when you look at the entire security architecture of Nigeria, there's a lot of discontent. There's a lot of duplication of roles. And so some of them work at cross purposes. And then the failure of it is what we see in rising crime and also what you see in deploying professional military men to tackle civilian issues has then also eroded the capacity of the military to tackle some of these issues, which is what is leading us to where we are.
Do you agree with those who think that all of these, security apparatus that we seem to be putting in place, we're just running away from what we really need to do, which is lawmakers take this discussion headlong. Let us know, where does the country stand on the question of state police or whatever they call it?
Well, I think that we've had these issues with us for a long time. And so when the All Progressive Congress was canvassing for votes in 2015, it produced a manifesto by which it was asking for votes from Nigerians. And that manifesto, the issue of security is key. What the APC government, as a political party then, said was that if we give them power, it was going to embark upon devolution of powers to ensure that there is state police, and that all communities, all states are allowed to develop specific security outfits to address their own peculiar concerns. People from Kaduna, people from Gombe, people from Lagos, people from Warri, based on their own peculiar circumstances of their areas, will be allowed to develop their own unique policing system to be able to address the issues. And you saw what happened in Lagos State, in the Ikorodu area, when Badu issue came up. You know, the Lagos State government just worked with the locals, worked with Odua People's Congress, and because they know these people, and they live with them, they know their houses, they know their hideouts, and they were able to go through. By now today, you don't hear so much of Badu in Ikorodu again because it's been effectively tackled. In 2015, Lagos State government set up the neighborhood watch outfit, which has the capacity to gather intelligence and then work with the police to be able to achieve monitoring of crime in the state. And it's paid off handsomely. So when the Southwest governors came together and set up the Western Nigeria Security Network, otherwise called Amotekun, and there was some kind of opposition from the federal government, everybody was outraged. Everybody was surprised because that actually is the main agenda of the All Progressive Congress, APC, as a political party, to devolve power to the regions, especially in relation to security and policing. So I expected that the government would be very happy and ask other regions in the north central, in the southeast, in the south to duplicate these efforts and ensure that the people themselves take over the issue of their security, are supported by the government. So that's where we are, that all regions will be allowed to develop their own unique policing system.
But then, one of the issues that a number of people, some of them legal practitioners, have raised is the legality of, or otherwise, of any apparatus of security that is not in tandem with what the Constitution says. So yes, sub 2B of the Constitution says the security and welfare of people shall be the primary function of government. But in which way are state governments empowered to create their own security network?
Honestly, I do not agree with those who say that policing is a national assignment. Section 215 of the Constitution says we will have a police force that will be known as Nigeria Police Force, and no other police force shall be established for the nation. So, as long as any state has not established any outfit that bears the name Nigeria Police Force or Police Force.
So it's in the name now.
It's in the name. Because the same Constitution says, when you want to know what the police force is set up to do, go to any act established by the National Assembly. And the National Assembly has established the Police Act, which was established in 1947. And the responsibility of the police is that of gathering intelligence and preventing crime here and there. So any other state can establish their own police as long as it don't bear the name Nigerian Police Force. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes in 2007, the National Assembly itself established what is called Nigerian Security Civil Defense Corps. And it's a volunteer organization. You can join that organization as a volunteer. You can join it as a retired person, as a pensioner. And they gave them power to gather intelligence, to arrest, and then to also prosecute. By 2015 or thereabout, that agency was empowered to carry arms. Thereafter, the National Assembly also passed another act, setting up the Peace Corps of Nigeria, even though President Buhari did not sign that bill into law for one reason or the other. So the point I'm making is that the issue of policing, the issue of security, is not exclusive to the Nigerian Police Force. And there's nothing barring any state in Nigeria from establishing its own security outfit for the purpose of gathering intelligence, for the purpose of detecting crime, and then working with the established police system to prosecute anyone who is offended. In fact, under the Nigerian legislation, especially the Criminal Code, and even the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, I, as a private individual, if I suspect that you have committed a crime, a judge, myself, or any other public spirited person can arrest.
Citizens arrest.
Oh, yes, and then you hand them over to the police for prosecution. So it's a misconception, with due respect, on the part of those who are advising the federal government to be opposing efforts made by the regions or the communities or the states to be able to establish their own relevant police network. Because, look, personally, for instance, I can tell you, I took a decision with my family that I'm not accepting any brief outside Lagos or anywhere I can take flight to. It's unfortunate. But my family won't allow me to travel by road. Given all that we're seeing, the NBA vice chairman was kidnapped somewhere in Taraba, and it's all over the country. You know, look at the figure that Amnesty gave out. About 20,000 people lost their lives to Boko Haram and insurgency. About 900 people were kidnapped, persons were kidnapped last year. So the security thing is a real threat to us. And as the federal government should work with all the states to ensure that, they regulate the procedure for gathering intelligence and preventing crime.
All right, we'll have more on possible solutions when we come back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, when they say the security of lives and property, primary purpose of governments, much as you say state government, no law stops them from doing that. But can they do it as a region? What law would they rely on if they do it as a region, as it is now?
I think I've read from newspapers today that the various houses of assembly of the states have passed respective laws setting up these agencies, whether Amotekun or whatever name they want to call it. So it may just be in terms of operational guidelines that they will cooperate together as a region. But I'm sure each state will have to set up its own law, like Lagos State has done with neighborhood safety.
Are they allowed to have a central command and control system for the regional security purpose?
No, I think that it's purely a matter of networking. Each state will have to then collaborate with the neighboring states in terms of partnering together. It may not be a general outlook in terms of the legality, but each state has to set up its own laws in order to enforce security.
Okay. When they say that the national security architecture needs to be tweaked to make it more efficient, some would suggest that they're talking about various agencies of security of government, some of which you mentioned earlier. So in that light, is there a law or laws, are there laws setting up any of these institutions that you think need to be tweaked in order for us to have the kind of security architecture that can help better combat these issues?
Well, you don't forget that sometimes in 2008 or thereabout, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and now Minister of State for Niger Delta, Festus Keyamo, went to court to challenge Dr. Goodluck Jonathan in the appointment of service chiefs without consultation with the National Assembly. And the Federal High Court agreed with him that the president could not appoint service chiefs without approval by the National Assembly. That is appointment. Now in 2017, the president unilaterally extended the tenure of the service chiefs. And you know what that has led to is to just more or less demobilize professionalism in the system. The chief of army staff is busy establishing a university in his home state. The chief of air staff is also establishing another university in his home state. So you see that there's a lot of distraction going on. And the laws we have need some kind of coordination. The National Securities Agencies Act establishes the NIA, National Intelligence Agencies for Foreign Intelligence, establishes the DIA for security, establishes the DSS for security. And then there's the Nigerian police, and then there is the Nigerian Army, there is the Air Force, who more or less have now taken over internal security, which is not supposed to be the case. So when you talk about security architecture, it's for us to sit down now and collate these laws and ensure that we remove areas of duality, whereas there seems to be duplication of responsibilities, whereby some of them work at cross purposes. The DSS, by all means, should be responsible for gathering intelligence in terms of internal security. But you see DSS getting involved in revolution now, busy with Showore and all manner of distractions at the expense of their core responsibility. And I think the president, with all due respect, should find a way towards ensuring that these agencies are made to account for the funds that have gone into their operations. Because in Nigeria, our budget every year, security takes a larger chunk of that budget. And you can't see the evidence of it in what is going on in the country.
You know, the last time that the National Assembly tried to look at this matter, whether or not they were going to consider state police, it fell through. But now that they say they are concerned about national security, what's happening, how should we proceed, what would you like to see them do? Since they are the lawmakers, how would you like to see them approach this matter to solve it once and for all?
Well, if I've heard the narration of members of the National Assembly, especially the Honorable President of the Senate and the Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, is that they should revisit the law which was turned down by the Saraki-led Senate in terms of devolution of powers. We can't continue in this way. If you go around the country now, even policemen are being kidnapped and they are paying ransom. Policemen. Security officers are being kidnapped and are paying ransom to be free. How much less you and I? So the security situation has gotten to an alarming state that we need to ensure that the responsibility for state police is granted to all states that have the capacity to go into that. So the National Assembly should, as a matter of urgency, work with the speakers of the rest House of Assembly of the states to ensure that state police is legalized and duplicated in the Constitution in such a way that there will be no controversy and there will be no misinterpretation. It should be expressly stated in the Constitution that every state could go ahead and recruit police for the purpose of community policing and tackling their own specific, unique challenges that they face in their respective states.
So the ball is back on the floor of the National Assembly. We'll see how they respond to that. We thank you for coming on this morning, Mr. Ebonlu Adegboro, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
My
Well,
pleasure.
back in a moment. Stay with us.